now I'm going to talk briefly about our firm's application process. And as you can see on the slide, we require a CV, an application form, and a covering letter. And as Vashi mentioned previously, this is where it's really important to show that you've researched the firm and that you show that this is the kind of firm you want to work for. Because as Vashi mentioned, if you're sending out bulk applications, they really can tell. And as soon as they look at a quick glance at the covering letter and they can tell it's basically being copied and pasted, it's pretty much going in the bin and you're not getting any further. And then all that time you spent on these applications is just essentially wasted. So make sure when you're doing your application form and your covering letters, you really are expressing why you want to work at this firm in particular and why you want to work in a regional firm as opposed to somewhere else. And in terms of CVs and things, there's always a good tip that I was given when I was doing my CV is don't underestimate the importance of the hobbies and interests section, because essentially you've all got the same qualifications, you're all going to have similar work experience, or if during this pandemic goes on much longer, you'll be in the same level field of not really having any work experience. So things in your hobbies and interests, if you've got something a bit weird or a bit quirky that you can put in there, it's something that's going to stick in someone's mind and they're going to go, oh, I remember that application because of this slightly weird reason that they put in their hobbies and interests. So that's one way to try and help you stand out in that process, because there will be a lot of applications coming through. So you need to make sure you stand out, and you need to make sure it's all tailored to the firm specifically, otherwise you're likely to be dismissed instantly. And if you are successful in that stage, you're then invited to an assessment day. We're not 100% sure what sort of form that would take for this year's intake or next year's intake. It all depends what happens with the pandemic. But essentially what it was when I did it was the morning there was a set of tests that you need to do. And at some point during that, you're asked to leave the room to do a presentation. You are given the topics beforehand. Mine was on whether no-fault divorce should be introduced, which is quite interesting because now it has been. And then after you finished all of the tests, there is a networking lunch where all the directors are usually there and the current trainees. And this is a really important part of the day because the directors basically all pull together to make the decisions. So the more directors you talk to, the more memorable conversations you have, the more they like you, the more likely to be remembered and asked back for an interview. And then in the afternoon, what they generally do is some sort of group exercise or some sort of activity. Mine was we were all given a random topic off the top of someone's head and we had to talk about it for about 3 minutes on the spot. And I know Vashi's was different because they had a group exercise and it was something to do with kicking somebody out of somewhere. But basically it was looking at how well you work in a team. So that's what our sort of experience of the assessment day was. And if there is one online, it will be on sort of similar grounds. There's probably going to be a presentation and there probably will be some sort of group activity as far as you can do those online. But we just don't know what form yet that is going to take. And then if you're successful with that, you will be invited to an interview, which is what Vashi talked about.
The interviews are essentially just so they know that you're capable and that you're a very smart person. So the interview is mainly getting to know you as a person and whether you'll fit into the firm's culture, because personality is a very big thing. So your interview will likely be with the training principal Emma Palmer and our managing director Chris Longden. Mine lasted about 45 minutes and it was mainly a general chat. They do ask you some questions, so be prepared for those that they do ask at training contract interviews, such as like why law, why this firm, etc. But it's just getting to know you guys and it's essentially the last hurdle so that they can assess as to whether you would fit into the firm's culture. Do try and be as relaxed as possible, because then you'll be yourself. And if they ask you a question that you don't know, do take a minute to think about it, because it shows that you're not just spouting words. You are giving it some thought in answering their questions. So that would be my top tips for the interview. It is daunting, but do try to relax.